Training 101 lecture. My name is Tanya Gates and I'm the owner of On Point Hunting Dog Training and Nutrition, and we operate our business in the Yukon Territory and a number of locations throughout BC. Congratulations on starting to feed your pet a balanced, nutritious, safe, and effective raw diet. In this video, we will offer information and guidelines on how to feed raw, whether you are transitioning from a traditional kibble diet or starting from a newborn pup, as well as advantages compared to traditional kibble diets. Thank you for trusting On Point to provide you with the highest quality food available. So we have a few things here that we're going to need to get before you get started with raw feeding. You're going to need some freezer space, some dedicated containers, a feeding plan, and then you're going to have basic ingredients that you will require for using a raw diet. Those include frozen ground fresh food, thawed and frozen. Then we have raw meaty bones, which include the spine, the neck, the head, the feet, and that sort of thing that the dogs are fully going to consume, and those are in the form of some chicken necks, chicken backs, beef and bison bones, as well as turkey feet. So there are a few basic things that you'll need when you start raw feeding. That includes a freezer with some space in it. Many people have dedicated freezers for their dogs. You'll also need fridge space and a feeding plan. The basic ingredients of a raw diet include the following: frozen ground fresh, which is 100% nutritional and balanced out of the box. It's the most cost effective and will require establishing routine to remove from the freezer and thaw. Number 2, we have bones. We call these raw meaty bones, and these are the bones that the dog or the cat will fully consume. Those include the spine, the neck, and the knuckles of large animals such as bison and beef, as well as the necks and backs of the fowl such as chicken and turkey. And then the third basic ingredient that we're going to discuss today is a dehydrated form of raw food called smack. And this is a great option for those who have limited freezer space, or if you're traveling or training your puppy, or those times when you're in between orders and you just need some food on hand right away because it has a longer shelf life. So, one of the first things that we're going to discuss here is the transition from a traditional kibble diet to a raw fed diet. Some people are starting their puppies off on raw right away when they get them at 8 weeks, and that's perfectly fine. But if you're coming to raw feeding from a kibble fed dog, then there are a couple things to mention. So if you're already feeding raw, there is no transition between one type of raw and another type of raw. You can just change their food easily. If you are switching from a kibble type diet, a conventional diet, to a raw diet, then there's also no transition required because the raw food is very gentle. It only contains limited ingredients, and most of those are meat, bones, and organs, and none of the other ingredients that dogs might be sensitive to adjusting to. And then the other thing to consider is that you do not want to be mixing kibble food with raw food. If you're going to feed any of those at the same time, they must be in different meals. So if you're feeding twice a day, one day in the morning is kibble and in the evening is raw. Okay, so the first type of food that I'm going to talk about that we sell here at On Point is the Smack brand dehydrated raw food. So this food has the convenience of kibble, but with the nutrition of a raw fed diet. Just like these bags here, we have 4 different kinds for dogs, and then we have one specifically made for the nutrition that cats require. So this type of food is very convenient. Because of that, it has a little bit higher price point, but it is nutritionally balanced as is, but you can use it as a treat for your dog if you want to give them a healthy type treat if they're on a raw diet, as well as you can use it for training. We call it the puppy smack at the dog school, and it's really great for those people who like to be traveling or hiking in the Yukon. There's lots of outdoorsy people, and in BC too. So it's a really great option for those that are going to be out in the outdoors and they don't want to be bringing raw meat with them. It's dehydrated food, so you just want to make sure that you have water available for your dog. You don't have to mix it with water, but you can if you want. but just make sure that the dog always has access to fresh water. So then, the second type of food that I'm going to talk to you about that we provide through On Point is called Perfectly Raw. And that's a frozen, ground fresh food. So it comes in a number of different forms, which we're going to explain in a little bit here. But I just wanted to explain the basics of it first. So it's 100% nutritionally balanced food that provides meat, bones, and organs. They're all ground, and they're already in the correct optimal proportions, which is 80% meat, 10% bone, and 10% organs. So this is nutritionally balanced as is. It's in a format that conveniently blends all the elements your animal needs, saving you time and money as compared to trying to make a formula from your own ingredients at home. Perfectly Raw has been in the business for a long time, and they do the nutritional analysis and all the balancing themselves, so you don't have to think about that part of it. In addition to meat, bones, and organs, some options contain the supplements of fruits and vegetables, as well as tripe. So if your food smells like a cow barn, it's okay, it's natural. And Perfectly Raw, they have a number of options for food that include nutritionally balanced, fully balanced meals, and those include the Pro Energy Mix, the Pro Fish Mix, the Pure Pork Mix, the Turkey Dinner option, as well as the Lean Chicken Dinner option, and the Perfect Pro Mix, which is made for young puppies, small dogs, and cats. So specifically to Perfectly Raw, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. They have a number of other ground options which you add to supplement to your dog's diet. So those ones aforementioned, those are the fully balanced meals. And then certain dogs will require different additions at different stages in their life. So for example, a puppy, you would want to give them more of the whole chicken backs, as well as whole chicken necks when they're really small puppies, because these things are going to give them the added calcium that they need for growing. And then there's also ground turkey, as well as ground lean meaty bones, and the backs in a ground form if you don't want to be feeding the whole backs. So all of these options are made for supplementing the original nutritionally balanced meals for those times when they need more calcium, or an older dog that wants to be on a leaner type food, but you still want to give them the bone to give them the extra benefits from the cartilage that's going to help them with their joints. So you just need to keep this in consideration when you're ordering from On Point, that those meals are meant for supplementing. Now that you've chosen which meal is appropriate for your dog, let's look at how they come packaged. Every Perfectly Raw box contains 32 pounds of fresh raw meat. On the side of each box, we have a list of ingredients, and those are the ingredients for all of the products that Perfectly Raw sells. So if you're ever wondering what it is that's in your food, just have a look on the side of the box. For the format of the frozen food, there are 3 convenient options, which will become important when I explain exactly the amount you will feed your pet based on its weight, and we will elaborate on this shortly. The 3 options are as follows. On the front of the box, you will have the product name, and it will have a check next to it, and that is the Pro Energy, the Pro Fish, etc. Then also there will be a format, and they will have a checkbox for this as well. The formats include Easy Snap, 16x2, and 8x4. The Easy Snap contains a 32-pound box with 8 packages that are Ziploc bags of 4 pounds of food each. 16x2 is 2-pound sticks. Those sticks are scored 3 times, making half-pound portions, and there are 16 sticks in the 32-pound box. 8x4 equals 4-pound loaves, and these are separated with cardboard inserts, making 8 4-pound loaves per 32-pound box. And then final option is bulk, which is what the whole chicken backs come as. It's a bulk bag of 32 pounds, and it requires thawing in order to separate out the individual pieces. Whole chicken necks come in a 2-pound bag, and there are 12 of those in a box for 24 pounds. And the whole chicken backs also come in a convenient 2-pound bag with approximately 6 backs per bag, and that comes in 12 packages times 2 pound for 24 pounds. So for the Easy Snap 4-pound Ziploc bags, those are really great for people with small dogs or cats, as they require less volume than a larger animal would, and so you can buy those at your convenience individually. So depending on the size of your dog, you will either feed this food thawed or still frozen. Some dogs really like to have a frozen brick of food. It's fun for them to eat. In the summertime, we call it a dog popsicle. And other dogs require the food to be thawed out, but still kept in the fridge. And especially if your dog is a smaller dog, you don't want to be feeding them the frozen pieces, as they will cool the internal temperature of the dog down too much. Many clients choose to have a storage vessel, which they keep in the fridge so that they can have multiple days of food on hand, and makes the thawing process more efficient. The next option we have is called raw meaty bones. These I will refer to sometimes as RMBs. These are incorporated into a raw diet for a number of reasons, which go back to the animal's primal instincts of chewing, using their very large jaw that was developed to crunch down on bones and rib tendons. It's important to include these items to satisfy your dog's biologically appropriate way of eating. The act of chewing releases endorphins that relax the dog and give them that really good feeling. There's a reason why they say, give your dog a bone. RMBs are a fun treat in the summertime to have out in the yard for the dog to work on. If you feed them frozen, it will take them longer for the dog to get through it. They can be defined as those bones that your dog will fully consume. These include examples such as whole chicken necks, excellent for puppies, small dogs, and as a fun treat, especially if they're frozen. The second is whole chicken backs. These are excellent for added bone and fat content for high energy puppies and growing puppies that are also teething. So you want them to chew down on the food, rip the meat off and the fat off. That action is going to help with the natural teething process to get the old teeth out and the new ones to come in properly. The third option is bones or of the larger animals such as beef and bison. These will provide bones in the form of knuckles, spines, neck, ribs. As a side note, too much bone can cause constipation. So this will be evident by a dog having difficulty when it's going to the washroom, as well as overly hard and white waste. The other type of RMBs is recreational, which is not fully consumable. Those you might be familiar with are those that you would get at the deli that have the marrow inside of them. They're from the large weight-bearing bones. And those have really excellent quality from the marrow, is highly nutritional, but it's very rich. So you have to be careful not to give too much, because then you'll have some problems on the other end. And also, the dog does not fully consume the bone, so they're not getting the benefit of the calcium from the bone. And the last fact about those type of bones is that they can actually, I've seen them get caught on the jaw of the dog through the hole once they've eaten the marrow is all gone, and they put the jaw through the bone. And this can be dangerous and require veterinary help. So in general, I recommend that those type of bones be under supervised times only and in moderation. Okay, so now that we've gone through all of the basic ingredients, now it's time to feed our dogs. So here are some general guidelines for figuring out how much to feed your dog. The daily requirements are calculated based on the dog's age. Puppies require 3 times per day feeding, Adults are recommended at 1 time per day. That's what I do. Many people will feed often 2 times per day, but with a raw feeding diet, the dog is consuming a lot less volume of food, so it's not necessary to feed multiple times on an adult dog. The second is activity level. Low is 2% of their ideal body weight. High is 4% of the ideal body weight. And then the final piece is the weight of the dog. So this is based on an ideal weight. So if a dog is looking good, that's where you want them to be, then you use that weight. If they need to lose a little bit, then you're going to feed for the lower weight. And if they need to gain, then you're going to feed for the upper weight. Most dogs will require 2%. So there are certain circumstances such as puppies or extremely highly active dogs such as my hunting dogs, and they're going to require more food because of that stage of their life or the activity that they're doing at that particular time. So it gets bumped up from 3 to 4% even sometimes on higher activity and young puppies. So here are the 3 steps for determining the daily portions for any dog. Step number 1, determine the weight you're feeding for. So for example, if you have a young female puppy, you're going to go off of the weight that pup's mother was. Step 2, determine the activity level of your dog. So if you have a puppy, they're very active, but if you have a more senior dog, they're going to be a lot less active. And step number 3, adjust accordingly if conditions change. So as I sort of discussed before, you have puppies that are going to grow into adults, so they're going to require less food. Or you have dogs that are normally moderately active, but they go through an extreme active time through sports or working breeds or hunting dogs, that sort of thing. And if a dog gets older, they're just going to require less volume of food. So now we're going to do an example of how to calculate the amount of food to feed your dog every day. Okay, so now that we've gone through the general rules and steps of the feeding guidelines, I'm going to give you guys an example here. So we're going to have a 12-week-old puppy, and we're going to, for puppies, you feed them based on their adult weight. So this is the weight that they're going to end up being when they're fully grown. So this example, we have a female puppy, and we know that her mother was 50 pounds. So we're going to base our daily feeding volume on 50 pounds. Now, that's step 1 is find the weight for your dog. Step 2 is we're going to multiply by the activity level. So that the activity level is the percentage of ideal body weight that the weight of the dog needs to be times by for the daily portion. And for generally the rule is 2 to 4% of ideal body weight. And for pups, we're going to go on the high end. We're going to go up to 4% because they're growing, they got lots of needs, they're very high energy. And then when they've fully grown, we can bring that amount down and maintain it at a level that's a lesser percentage. So we take 50 pounds and we times that by 4%. And that is going to equal 2 pounds per day. This is your daily volume you're going to feed the dog every day. But with a young pup, you're feeding 3 times a day. You're usually giving them 3 meals, 1 in the morning, 1 at noon, and 1 in the evening. So what we're going to do is take this 2 pounds per day, we're going to divide by 3 meals, and that equals 2/3 of a pound, or 0.67 pounds per meal. And it's as simple as that. Okay, for our second example, we're going to use a large breed adult dog. So this dog is already fully grown, has already gone through its puppy stage, and now we're just maintaining a weight. So for large breed, we have 90 pounds. And this is the dog's ideal body weight. If we needed the dog to lose weight, we would feed for a lesser weight. If we needed the dog to gain weight, we would feed for a higher weight. But this dog is at the ideal point, so that's what we're going to go with. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is to times it by the activity level. So for this dog, this type of dog, this breed, it's a lower activity level. So we're going to times it by a percentage of ideal body weight that's on the lower end. So for this dog, we're going to times it by 2%. So that's going to give us 1.8 pounds per day. So for this adult dog, we're likely feeding it just one time per day. And I generally say in the evening, so then a dog can rest and digest. So this would be the amount, this full amount you would feed a 90-pound Great Dane. So for our third example, we're going to do a senior overweight dog. Many people will come to raw feeding because their dogs are having health problems, and a lot of the time that's because the dog has too much weight. So what we're going to do here is that the dog is currently 75 pounds, but ideally we want the dog to be 65 pounds. So the dog needs to lose weight, and therefore we're going to feed it according to the level we want to get the dog at. So that's 65 pounds. And because this dog is not only a senior, but also because it needs to lose weight, we're going to feed him at the low end of the percentage scale. So we're going to feed him at 2% of ideal body weight. So that's going to be times 0.02. And that's going to give us 1.3 pounds per day. So for a dog in particular that you're wanting to lose the weight, you feed this amount every day until you reach this desired overall weight, and then you can adjust and maintain based on energy level and based on them continuing to be seniors. So that's how you do it with a dog to lose weight. Okay, so here we have a box of 8 by 4 pound loaves, Pro Energy. I'm going to show you how I end up breaking this apart and conveniently putting it into a container. So we take the tape off and we're left with this bag. Take the whole bag out. And then I'm going to take this bag and I'm going to drop it from a height onto a hard surface. Again. As we do that, it starts to come apart. Now we have half and half. We have these dividers. And voila. So now we can take these loaves, which are 4 pounds. And the reason I use this Rubbermaid container is because we have perfect fitting of our 4 pound loaves. So when you're feeding a lot of dogs, you can melt 3 or 4 days worth of food into this container. That's how we get that done. Okay. So now I'm going to show you with my dogs what a regular day of raw feeding looks like. For Avash, we're going to do a meal of 1 chicken back, including another portion of the thawed meal. So this is one of the dinner options. So for Avash, he gets approximately 2 pounds per day. He's a pretty active fellow. There you go, Avi. He's ours. And then for Simba, he's going to have a frozen raw dog popsicle. Good boy. Over here, bud. Simba. And then for Simba, we're also going to give him a raw meaty bone, which is a turkey leg. You know, Simba, right here. Oh, hush. Lie down. On your bed. Num num. Num num. So here we have a 4-month-old puppy. He's going to have her dinner and chicken backs. Pup, 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 pup. Pup, pup, pup. Hello. It's time to eat. My sauce. My sauce. Alright, so that concludes our Raw Feeding 101 lecture and information session about perfectly raw feeding. I'd like to take this time to thank you for viewing the video, and to continue to learn more about raw feeding, please share this video with friends and family who may be interested in a raw diet for their dogs and cats. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. So for more information, client testimonials, frequently asked questions, and ordering information, please visit us at onpointraw.ca. So here's to keeping your dog's health and happiness on point.